Welcome to Utah, specifically the Moab area. There's a whole lot of beauty going on, and a whole bunch of vehicles getting very dirty. Honda brought automotive writers here to look at the third-generation Passport. This is not the nameplate's first rodeo. The first two were essentially these, truck-based SUVs manufactured by Isuzu. Leaving the market in 2002, it's been a while since this name rode alongside a Honda logo. Much has changed. This is a very different vehicle.
Passport has 2 rows of seating. It's built on the same architecture as the Pilot, and the wheelbase is the same, but this one is 6 inches shorter. Now, remember, it is not built on the same platform as the Acura RDX. That's exclusive to the premium brand.
Utah is beautiful, but before we drove here, we learned about Passport's purpose here.
The reason we're really here today, expanding our light truck business. This is for people who want a more substantial, more powerful vehicle than a CR-V, but they don't want something as family-oriented and as large as a Pilot. So we created Passport specifically for that customer.
Passport has an all-wheel drive advantage over the competition. The system is similar to the last generation of Acura super handling all-wheel drive.
This is a unique system because our torque vectoring system is delivering the torque as opposed to applying braking, which some other systems do in order to change the driving parameters. So we're delivering torque to the wheels that need it. You can deliver up to 70% to the rear, and then in the rear you can deliver it 100% side to side.
Designed, developed, and built in the U.S., most Passports come standard with front-wheel drive. All-wheel drive is an additional $1,900. It's standard on the top trim Elite model that we're all driving. Honda engineers say the all-wheel drive modes are calibrated differently than the ones in Pilot, since Passport is intended to be more off-road ready. Its main competitors are Ford Edge, Nissan Murano, the upcoming Chevy Blazer, and maybe Subaru Outback. To drive home that Passport is being positioned as more than a soft roader, we are quickly pointed off pavement.
Honda sent us on a pretty good course here. There's rock, there's snow, there's mud, there's a little bit of everything.
By slicing 6 inches off Pilot's rear end, Passport's departure angle is improved. All-wheel drive models ride 0.8 inches higher after an hour of trekking on BLM roads. And crossing country like this, it dawns on me that there hasn't been a single undercarriage scrape.
Now, if you're going to do severe off-roading, then yes, you're going to get a Toyota 4Runner or a Jeep Grand Cherokee or Wrangler. But the Passport handles this stuff pretty well, and I don't see owners taking it on anything more rough than this.
Basically, this Honda is designed to get your crew and gear to a destination, whereas four-wheel drive vehicles treat the trail as the destination. The suspension and stock all-season tires here that come on standard 20-inch wheels across the board keep things fairly comfortable in the cabin.
There's a torque vectoring gauge in the cluster here, and it's really fun to look at, though it's most fun to look at when you really should have your eyes on the road and not the gauge.
I tried out some of the off-road modes as we hit the different surfaces and found it all worked as advertised. Not that we drove anything intense. I'm guessing Passport can take on more than Honda sent us on, since one of the chase vehicles was a Pilot, and it did the course too. A little slower, but it made it. Turbo 4-cylinders are becoming ubiquitous. Honda found that there were buyers that wanted more, so Passport tours town and trails with the same 3.5-liter V6 as Pilot. I'd imagine it also kept the development costs down. There's 280 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. The exhaust note gets a little extra growl. The wildlife will know you're coming. This is familiar, and it controls a revised 9-speed gearbox with a sport mode and manual shiftability. Many Pilots come with a 6-speed transmission.
Passport weighs about 100 pounds less than Pilot. With the same powertrain, you're going to get nearly the same acceleration.
That means 0 to 60 rises up in about 6.5 seconds. And if sound means anything to you, the engine growl is more satisfying than the one in CR-V. It's also rated to tow 5,000 pounds, which is better than the direct competition.
Since Pilot and Passport share an architecture, it shouldn't be any surprise that the two feel very similar when you're driving, and both of them are quiet and comfortable.
That's not to say there aren't differences. For one thing, Passport has a quicker steering ratio to help dodge fallen rock on the roadway. There's a lot of that out here. And Honda claims it has a sportier feel, with a retuned suspension and more responsive throttle and brake feel.
Passport rides nearly an inch higher than Pilot, and it's something that you feel in the corners. Definitely feels more like an SUV.
As far as fuel economy goes, the EPA rates the front-wheel drive version at an average of 22 miles per gallon on standard-grade fuel. All-wheel drive drops it by 1 mpg. Those averages are a couple less than Edge and Murano. That's Cliff Bar and jerky money. Honda Sensing, which is the company's suite of active electronic safety tech, is standard. It includes lane keep assist, blind spot warning, adaptive cruise control, and automatic emergency braking, which might come in handy in situations like this. The interior looks, you guessed it, just like a Pilot. And while it's a fine place to watch the wilderness go by in, it doesn't have the outdoorsy vibe that Honda keeps stressing. Some anodized trim or rugged stitching would provide a unique atmosphere. Honda says it's going for an urban look, one you could take your boss out for lunch in. I suggest vacuuming first, or at least WeatherTech mats. It's very functional in here, especially the doors, and the center console can swallow loads of gear. That makes this space very usable. I spent some 6 hours in the Passport and found the seats pretty comfortable. The ones in the Elite are heated and vented. Honda's user interface has been improved over the years, right down to getting a volume knob for the sound system. All but the base Sport model get Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. A surround view camera system would be nice when off-roading to keep the flanks dent-free. At least there are different angles, helpful for lining up a trailer hitch.
The back seat is roomy enough and has one of my favorite features, either more cargo room or more legroom.
It's mid-pack for my size 11s. There's an inch less legroom than Edge, an inch more than Murano. Passengers will appreciate the extra touches that Elite brings, especially in Utah's cold conditions. There are all sorts of places for small things, and these help if you lose your sunglasses, which I did. Passport doesn't offer a panoramic glass roof like the one in Ford Edge, just a regular one.
There isn't a Costco for miles and miles and miles from here, so you're going to have to take my word that the cargo area of the Passport is really big.
The load floor is on the higher side, but there's a good amount of space under it to hide valuables. Good thing I didn't need this. Always nice to have little cubbies. It's quite a reach to the seat backs. I figure a dozen packs of TP will fit behind the second row, so remote releases are especially welcome. 40-20-40 split seatbacks would be handy in a rig like this for owners that keep skis and snowboards inside for security. Raising them means going around to the back door and doing it manually, but really, this is a large space that takes on a lot of kit. Honda does that very well. It's also fairly affordable. The base front drive Sport model retails for $33,000. There are 4 trims, and the only option on the first 3 is all-wheel drive at $1,900. Honda sees the EXL as the volume model since it adds heated leather seats, power tailgate, and a sunroof. Typically, this pricing undercuts the direct rivals by some $3,000 to $4,000. How hard you haggle might be a factor. Passport has different front and rear fascias, and remember, the back end is 6 inches shorter than Pilot. The D-pillar gets a floating roof treatment, and taillights are unique, but overall, it looks a lot like a shorter Pilot. From my perspective, Honda missed the chance to set it apart from Big Brother with a more rugged look. I've made the same comment about Ridgeline, which is a pretty tame-looking pickup, but this is smart product development. With lots of room for people and cargo, plus a V6, it will retain restless CR-V owners that are looking for more. This is one Passport designed to keep people from traveling, at least to other brands. Going back to the rodeo for a moment, if you remember, Honda and Isuzu essentially swapped for vehicles the other didn't produce. Isuzu got the first generation Odyssey out of the deal, which was rebadged Oasis, and Acura got the SLX, which was an Isuzu Trooper. To give you an idea of what happens on these press events, the automakers bring us to a nice spot, overfeed us, and then tell us about the car, which is a big plus. We pair up with another writer, sometimes a manufacturer's rep, then we drive a predetermined route. I was lucky to get Brian Wong with Cars.com. Just to get another person's opinion, what do you think? How's it working out?
I think it's pretty good. Honda's all-wheel drive system that's underneath the Passport, the Pilot, as well as the Ridgeline, is pretty robust in that it has true torque vectoring. It's able to move 70% of the power to the rear wheels, so it's a smart system that reacts very quickly to different situations. With the added ground clearance that the Passport offers, it does make it a bit more capable than those two vehicles, and for those who want an SUV but don't necessarily need a third row, this is probably the choice for you. It's just a little bit more capable than those other two vehicles.
And a shout out to the detailing crew that has to clean these things inside and out for the next wave of auto writers. That red dirt is nasty stuff.
That's my look at the new Honda Pilot, and a quick tip before I go: if you haven't been to this part of the world, you really owe it to yourself. It is spectacular. And the park ranger that pulled us over for speeding, yes, we got pulled over for speeding, says that January and February are the best times to come here because nobody else is here, all right? And no, she didn't give us a ticket. Thank you very much, Ranger. That's Driven. I'm Tom Voelk.